Do you find it hard to be in silence? Do you find it difficult to be on your own? Are you always distracting with noise, people, or work? This is the thing where we're always trying to avoid our own thoughts. We're afraid of what's within us. But it's actually when we're in silence, when we're alone, when we quieten the mind, that's when the answers come. So it's time to stop distracting and start listening. My name is Angela Cleary. I'm a feminine empowerment coach. I specialise in healing after narcissistic abuse, and I also offer twin flame and spiritual guidance. This is the thing, we're creatures of distraction. It's like music, noise, all the time. Give yourself some peace. Give yourself some time alone. And I used to do this when I spent a lot of time on my own, even as a teenager. But I used to always have music on. Always. And even later in life, I'd have to have the radio on all the time. I could sleep in silence, but I'd have to have the minute I woke up in the morning, turn on the radio. The minute I came in from work, turn on the radio. And in the car, always the radio. Always, always, always. Always had to have music. Always had to have the television on. Always had to have noise. And I was afraid of silence. I didn't know I was afraid of silence because obviously I wasn't aware of what silence did. But looking back, I know now that it was a distraction. And I used to always have to, if I wasn't on my own, I would try to be with my friends as much as possible. It was like, and even when I started living on my own again, like every weekend after work, it was just like, oh my God, I need to have people over for a party. I need to have people in my house. I can't be on my own at the weekend. And this was the way it was all the time. And I look back and I see that I was just avoiding the silence, avoiding my thoughts, avoiding my trauma. We're afraid to look within. We're afraid of how dark it is. But, it's actually not that dark. And I look back now and I see that the distraction was harder than the silence. Bottling all our stuff up, avoiding our thoughts, avoiding the secrets that we hold within. That's actually heavier than anything else. Because this is it. And it's that analogy of that heavy backpack again. Your thoughts are just, they're weighing you down. They're constantly weighing you down. And it's like you're in this darkness. It's like you're in a dark cloud. And it's heavy. It's heavy. It's really, really heavy. And I used to feel like that. I used to have this heaviness kind of across my forehead all the time, unless I was with people or unless I was distracted. And I used to just avoid it. And I remember when I started doing meditation, and I started to unconsciously heal in a sense because of the meditation. I remember coming in from work a few times and I'd be like 10 or 15 minutes to go by and I'd be like, shit, I forgot to turn on the radio. And then I'd run to turn on the radio. And then after a while, I started to consciously think, hold on now, I spent time in silence. I'm like, was it actually that bad? And now I love silence. And don't get me wrong, I still distract. Sometimes I still do. I was going through the dark night of the soul lately and I was in this really dense and heavy energy. And, I might have an hour of silence in the morning, but what I find very helpful is deep introspection. Speaking to yourself out loud. That is the way to do it. When you're in silence, speak to yourself out loud. Because, oftentimes, we're so afraid of that. This happens with me as well. We're creatures of fiddling. In a sense, if you don't have something in your hand, if you don't have your phone in your hand, you can't be in silence. You can't do this. And it's just no. I do that as well. Sometimes I have to sit in my hands when I'm watching something because it's just like if I don't sit in my hands when I'm watching, whatever I'm watching on the laptop, it's just like I'll grab the phone. I have to leave the phone away or sit in my hands. And I find it so difficult to go deep, I suppose, when I'm not doing something. So what I find really actually helpful is doing cleaning. Cleaning and silence is really, really good because your hands are busy, and it's not even just cleaning. If you're gardening or, doing art, just something that takes you into this meditative state in a sense. But then you start talking to yourself. And this is what I find so helpful. Like, as I said, I was kind of distracted lately as well. And I think I discovered the reason for it because on Thursday, my electricity was gone because they were doing upgrades in the area. So I had a day of quietness. And don't get me wrong, I had my laptop and my phone was charged. I had a power bank. But I took it as a sign. I was like, the universe wants me to spend some time alone. Completely in silence. I'm not alone. I'm always alone. In silence. So I decided to clean my house that morning and I decided I wouldn't turn on my phone and I wouldn't go near my laptop till the evening time. That was my goal for the day. And the minute I started cleaning, the answers just started flooding in. And I was like, oh my God, why didn't I do this ages ago? Because I was avoiding as well. You know, I got to the conclusion. I think we're so scared. We're scared of what we'll see. I said that already. We're scared of our demons. We're scared of our trauma. But like once you get through that heavy stuff, the introspection and that open dialogue and that silence really is helpful on your healing journey. But I went through a pause of wanting to be in silence. I was distracted. And I came to the realization, if you're like any of you guys, if you're on the same you're on the same healing journey as me, you get to the stage where you're fucking exhausted. You're just exhausted. You're like getting over this mountain. So this is the analogy I have. You're climbing up this mountain and you think you're near the top, but there's clouds in the way. You can't see the peak and you're like, the peak has to be there somewhere. The peak has to be there somewhere. It has to be there somewhere. And you get to a stage where the clouds start to dissipate and you're like, oh my God, there's still another way to go. And then there's more clouds covering the actual peak. And you're kind of going to this phase of, I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted. I'm wrecked. And like, you know, I think the reason I was avoiding silence was because I've been going up this mountain for so long. And I was so afraid that if I went into the silence and into the last bit of healing, it was never the last bit, we're always healing. But I was like, what if I get to this stage now again and the clouds move and there's another fucking mountain to go? I didn't want to face it in case there was another, because it's just, you do get to that stage and you're so frustrated, you're so exhausted, and you're like, is it ever going to stop? And I don't believe healing ever stops, but the heaviness does stop. And it gets easier and easier and easier as you go up and go up and go up. It just gets easier. You get stronger and stronger and stronger. But I was avoiding it as well. I was avoiding that silence. I was like, I don't want to see it in case there's so much more to go. And you should have seen me on Thursday. Oh my God. Gave myself that few minutes of silence. And it wasn't even a few minutes, but the first few minutes, it was just like epiphany after epiphany. It was aha moment after aha moment. It was like, oh my God, these are the answers. And they were quick fire. The minute I gave myself that space, the answers came in. And I remember saying afterwards, you know, this is after about an hour of that, after really, really speaking out loud to myself and really getting the answers to the things I was worried about, the fears that I was going through. And I was like, oh my God, it wasn't even that fucking hard. Jesus, like, you know what I mean? What was I worried about? A bit of a conversation with myself. And all my, like, that was it. All the fears were gone. Like, I had some fears come up over the last, but they've been kind of, these fears have been kind of heavy on me for the last few months, I suppose, to do with everything, to do with my twin flame connection, to do with my career, to do with moving forward, to do with leaving my comfort zone, all these kind of things. And they're all interconnected. They're all the same moon, like, effectively. And literally just an hour or so in silence and in talking to myself, I was like, oh my God, it all makes sense. And, you know, I love the time you can get in silence. And if you talk to yourself, you can actually get the fear. You get the fear and you dissect it. So you just dissect it into smaller pieces. And then you ask yourself the questions about the smaller pieces. And then the smaller pieces kind of go away. Like the fears I had prior to Thursday are now gone. And, you know, another really, really good thing about being in silence as well is if you're in the twin flame connection, telepathy between your twin flame is actually stronger if you spend time in silence. So not only did I spend time in silence and get the answers I needed towards my career and everything, I had an open dialogue not only with myself, I ended up having a deep conversation with my twin on the 5D. And alleviated so many fears around that and got to so many conclusions around why we were in separation. So this is it. Like you don't realize how powerful being on your own in silence can be. Having a conversation with yourself. They say people are crazy for talking to themselves. It's like, oh no, you're only crazy if you talk back. Talk back. Talk to your unconscious mind and let your unconscious mind talk to you. And guess what? The secrets will be revealed. All the answers that you ever needed are within you. And that's another thing, like, you know, as you're awakening to your truth, you keep seeking for answers online. You keep seeking for answers in spiritual guides, you know, and you keep looking outside yourself. And it's funny, like, all of the answers are within you. It's just crazy. It's not crazy. It's good crazy. You know what I mean? But it's mind-blowing. And that's another thing. Like, you know, when you're in silence and these answers come in, you're like, how did I know that? I didn't know I knew that. But in fact, you actually always knew the thing. You're just re-remembering. But like, if we don't give ourselves that enough time in that peace and quiet, we're never going to remember what we already know. And that's it. Like, you know, if you're constantly, and like I do this myself when I do distract. Like, don't get me wrong, I believe there's answers to be found everywhere. So you can watch a movie and you can get answers. You can watch a program, you can get answers. You can watch informational videos, you'll get answers. But the true answers come from within. And I find myself, if I get a clue or a message or a synchronicity on something that I'm watching, I'll pause that and then I'll have a conversation with myself about what that means. And then the deeper answer is actually within me. So this is so much, it's so profound, so vast, the amount of knowledge that we already have within us. Our soul knows so much. And if we don't get, then that's, sorry, I have to be doing these videos and like I get these downloads as I'm going. But like, this is the thing. The humans have been conditioned to distract. We've been conditioned to work busy lives. You have to work like a dog. It's like the system put this plan in place for humans to live in this industrial society. This is true, like, live in this industrial society, be distracted by work, be distracted by noise, traffic, everything all the time. Detach yourself from nature, from quietness, from stillness, because that's where the magic lies. And that's a fact. When we go into meditation, when we go into stillness, when we go out in nature, we reconnect with our soul. And for generations, we have been led to disconnect from our soul. And what disconnects us from our soul? Distraction, work, phone, television, partying, being around the wrong people. You know what I mean? You're constantly listening to other people's chatter, and especially if these people are not evolving, oh my God, if you're surrounded by people who are negative all the fucking time, they're going to fucking make you negative. They're going to make you an asshole too. I'm sorry, but like when we're, like, I remember being in the conditioned reality, being surrounded by that low vibration energy. I was one of those. I was one of those people who spoke negatively, and it's just, the glass half full, and you're doing that, the glass is shattered, oh my God. It's like they find the negative in everything. It's like, oh, look at the big sunny sunshine. And it's like, oh, it's going to rain in a few days. Oh, live in the moment. You know what I mean? And this is it. We're distracted by noise. We're distracted by people. We're distracted by negativity. We're distracted by working too much, all this kind of stuff. And we never give ourselves enough time to pause, to be in stillness, to literally ask yourself, how are you feeling? Like, you know what I mean? How are you feeling today? Ask yourself, how are you feeling today? And let yourself go, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not okay, I am okay. Who knows? You know, only you know. But if you don't actually ask yourself or take the time to spend some time with yourself, you know, you're never going to know these things. You know, we spend so much time with ourselves, even if we're distracted or if we're with other people. You're the person you spend the most time with. You know, and there's that quote, like, solitude is I don't know, I'm not going to say this right. Solitude is beautiful if you like the company you're with, or something like that. Do you know what I mean? If you like yourself, you're going to love being on your own. But if you don't actually get to know yourself, dig deep and get rid of those traumas, you're never going to know who you truly are. And it's a beautiful place to be in. You know what I mean? I absolutely love my peace. I love my silence. I love my alone time. You know, I get plenty of it. You know what I mean? You know, if I didn't enjoy that, you know, and I suppose I didn't at one stage. I used to drink. I used to smoke cigarettes. I used to smoke weed. I used to take drugs. Because obviously I didn't like being on my own. Even if I was on my own, I would have smoked weed, or I would have drank alcohol, just so that I wouldn't be alone with my thoughts. And now I don't need any substances because that's the thing. We only need distractions, substances like alcohol or drugs, or, you know, being around people or partying or, you know, overworking and all this, because we don't like our lives, because we're literally trying to escape from the life that we're existing in, because we're not living it, we're existing in it. And when you actually get to a stage of your life where you don't need any substances, any distractions, or any people, because you're not escaping from yourself. And that's it. It's not even just escaping from your life, that you're obviously living out of alignment with your soul. You're actually distracting from, you're escaping from yourself. You're escaping from your thoughts. You're escaping from your fears. You're escaping from your traumas. But I promise you this, and this is something I will always say, and I always mean it. I lived that life. I lived miserable, going around in circles over and over again. Trauma after trauma, narcissistic relationship after narcissistic relationship. Living unhealthy because I didn't want to be alive, to be honest with you. I was escaping a life that I didn't know I was trying to escape. I just thought life was supposed to be fucking miserable. So therefore, I did everything I could to make myself feel better. And I was so afraid to face my demons. Now, I didn't know I was afraid to face my demons because I wasn't aware. But unconsciously, the reason we're living in that life is because we think we have to live it. But we're also afraid to do the inner work and the healing. So we just distract. And we think that's all there is. But I look back now, and the deep inner work was hard at the start. It's ongoing, it's daily now. It's not as hard. It's actually quite easy because you're used to it, you're aware of it. It's difficult, we get emotional. What about it? But at the start, it is hard. But I would go through my healing over and 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 over again to prevent me from going back to the life I was living. You know, I would never take drugs again. I'll never drink again. You know, I don't need to escape from my life because I love who I am and I love the life that I'm living now. And the life I lived is harder than the life, than the introspection, than the work, than the going into silence. And we're so afraid of our own mind, and we're so afraid of our own shadow. We're so afraid of our own demons. But we continue to live in a life that's creating more demons. And it's so much harder to live in that life than it is to do the healing. And we're so afraid of the healing that we just live that life. And that's what society wanted us to do. Be miserable. Be a slave to the system. Be addicted to substances. Die early. Ruin your life. All of it. Or reconnect with your soul. Do your healing. Find a life you find fulfilling. Find a purpose that brings you passion. You don't need substances. You don't need distraction because you love being with yourself. And then the people you do surround yourself with aren't trying to drag you down. They're lifting you up. Now, isn't that more beautiful? And all we have to do is switch off the noise. Because that's literally all we have to do. Switch off the noise, do a little bit of introspection, have some open conversations with yourself, figure out who you are, figure out what you need to heal, and then you will be at peace. Silence has massive power, and all the answers you seek are within you. So stop distracting and start listening. So thank you so much for listening today, and please like and share. Thank you so much for listening today. If this resonates, please like and share, and please subscribe to my channel so I can reach as many people as possible. And if you would like help on your journey, please book me for a free discovery call today, and there's nothing more than to help you on your path.